I was an ordinary student, not the best, not the worst. At school, almost no one paid attention to me. Teachers confused my name. Classmates did not invite me to play. Sometimes I thought that I was just a background, a wall, and then it appeared, isolation. No, not the one they talk about on TV. In our school, they introduced a real isolation zone. It all started with one student allegedly getting infected with something incomprehensible. They did not explain to us what exactly. They simply stopped letting him into school, and a week later, another case, and another, and another. The director announced that an experiment was being launched on Monday. All students with suspicious symptoms would be isolated in the old school building for a while until they were sure that they do not pose a danger. I had an honest chance to get there. I had a simple allergy. My eyes were red. In the morning, I coughed in class, and that was it. 10 minutes later, two men in white coats took me away. Silently. They didn't even let me take my bag. The isolation cell turned out to be terrible. It used to be a labor office. Now it's been converted into cells. Cold concrete walls, one mattress, a steel door with a peephole, surveillance cameras. No one talked to anyone. Sometimes I heard screams. Sometimes I heard laughter, but it sounded like someone was going crazy. On the third day, I realized no one was being let out. On the sixth, there were fewer of us. They just disappeared, without explanation. At night, the door would open and someone would be taken away. In the morning, an empty mattress. And if you asked questions, you would be the first to be taken away. And then at night, he came. I saw a stranger in the cell, in a long black cloak with a gas mask on his face. He walked down the corridor, calmly as if he knew every corner. He wasn't afraid of the cameras. He wasn't hiding. He was carrying a cylinder with him. A minute later, there was a sound, a hiss, and a smell. Swedish. Heavy. We started coughing. Someone fell. One of the cellmates was hysterical. His nose was bleeding. Someone was laughing. Someone started scratching the walls with their nails. I hid my face in the mattress. Inhaled through the fabric. Didn't help. Nastya, the girl from the next cell, was screaming. Then her scream suddenly stopped. I passed out. I woke up in silence. The cells weren't working. The lights were flickering. Bodies behind the door. Students, teachers, those in white coats, all lying dead, like dolls, without blood, just dead. I left the isolation cell, walked through the school, only me, alive, alone. And then I saw him again, the stranger. He was standing at the exit. He took off his gas mask, and I recognized his face. It was me. He was standing at the exit, a stranger, a gas mask in his hand. His face was mine, exactly the same, only older, about 10 years, dark circles under his eyes, scars on his cheek. But it was me. I froze. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My throat felt like it was constricting. He looked at me and said calmly, "You weren't supposed to survive." I took a step back. My ears were ringing. My heart was pounding in my temples. "Who are you?" "The one you will become." He threw the empty canister on the floor, and it rolled with a dull sound. "I didn't come to kill. I came to free." "Free who?" "All of us. This school isn't a school. It's a prison, a laboratory. They make empty shells out of us. Every time you sleep, they do something to you, change you, rewrite you, drag out your fears and turn them into dreams. And then, into reality. Haven't you noticed?" I started remembering how my classmate died in his sleep from cardiac arrest, how the history teacher disappeared after complaining about voices in the walls, how my mother said that I started speaking in a strange voice in my sleep. "Why do you look like me?" He grinned, but there was only pain in his eyes. "Because I am you, from another layer, from another attempt. I couldn't be rewritten. I ran away. And now you are the last version, the last hope that it will work." Suddenly the whole school shook, as if an earthquake. The walls creaked. Black smoke came out of the ventilation. "They're coming," he said. They know that you understood everything. He extended his hand to me. Do you want to get out? I hesitated, but there was no choice. I grabbed his hand, and darkness swallowed us. When the darkness swallowed us, I thought it was all over. But I woke up, in class. An ordinary sunny day. The students were sitting at their desks, laughing, chatting, as if nothing had happened. Only the air was somehow different, heavy. I stood up. Everyone stared at me as if they had seen a ghost. You, someone started. You were in the isolation ward. The door swung open. The physics teacher, Mr. Artemiev, ran in. His clothes were all covered in dust, his eyes darting wildly. Close the doors. Don't let anyone out. I saw everything. He was breathing heavily. I was here yesterday. I saw this man in a gas mask. He released the gas. The students were dying before my eyes. He turned to me. And you were standing next to him. Everyone froze. That's a lie, I shouted. It wasn't me. It was someone who looked like me. Artemiev was shaking. He took out his phone. He dialed a number. Hello, police? This is school number 178. We have had a mass gas poisoning. People are dead. Someone did all this. I need you to come immediately. I think one of the suspects is here. He looked straight at me. His name is Danil. I didn't know what to do. My whole body was shaking. I felt like I was trapped again. That this wasn't reality. That this was another layer. Another illusion. But they were already breaking down the door. Sirens could already be heard in the distance. And a voice inside me, my voice but not mine, whispered, if they catch you, it will all start again. You have to escape. I ran out of the classroom while everyone was in shock. Up the stairs, down the hallways. Everything around was like an old VHS recording. The lights were flickering, the walls were distorted, as if reality was melting. Behind me, screams. The teacher was calling for security. The sirens were getting closer. Police cars had already pulled up outside the school. I ran into the gym. There was no one there. Just empty stands and a mirror on the wall. A big one, like in all dance halls. And in the reflection I saw him again. He was standing behind me. I turned around. No one, just a reflection. He was wearing a gas mask, but this time he was holding not a gas cylinder, but a key, long, strangely shaped, as if from something ancient. And he pointed to a door in the floor that I hadn't noticed before. I approached. There really was a hatch, camouflaged. I opened it. A narrow passage down into the darkness, to where the old school archive used to be, long abandoned. I climbed in. The police ran into the gym a minute later, but I wasn't there. Only a mirror. Only emptiness. Under the school, I walked in complete darkness. Sometimes I turned on the phone screen, but it quickly began to flicker and glitch. The technology didn't work here. Nothing worked here at all, except fear. There were inscriptions on the walls. In blood, or something similar. You're not the first. You're not alone. He's still watching. I reached the door, huge metal, covered in rust, and in the lock, what I saw in the reflection perfectly matched. The key. I inserted it, turned it. There was a room inside, small, with monitors, with cameras, with recordings, with millions of data points, about us, about every student, about every dream, every conversation, every fear, every step. Everything was recorded, studied. I realized school wasn't school. It was an experimental zone, and the one who looked like me was the last one to wake up. He left this for me. On the table, a note. You must choose, destroy everything, or become their new master. I held the note in my hands. My fingers were shaking. You must choose, destroy everything, or become their new master. The room was silent. Only the monitors hummed. On one, my classroom, empty. On another, the principal's office. He sat there as if nothing had happened, drinking coffee. On the third, the hallway. The police had searched the school, but they couldn't find the hatch. It had simply disappeared. I looked around. On the shelf lay folders with names, Real ones, classmates, teachers, even my parents. Their dossiers, biometrics, medical histories, psychological profiles, everything. Their every fear is recorded, every nightmare is turned into an experiment. I opened a file named Daniel G. Phase Awakening. Awakening? What does that mean? I scrolled further. There was a video. I pressed play. There I was, chained to a table, dressed in uniform, but my gaze was alien. Furious, I was being interrogated. "Who sent you?" the voiceover asked. I was silent. Then I grinned and said, "He's inside." "Already inside, and you can't stop anything." The recording ended. I recoiled. It wasn't me, but it was me. Suddenly a voice sounded behind me, hoarse but familiar. "Well, what will you choose?" I turned around. He was standing in front of me again. I was from the future, or from the past, or from another circle of hell. "You want to escape?" he said. "You won't. All you saw was just the first door. Destroy the system, and hundreds will remain trapped. Control it, and you will become someone feared even by those who built it." I looked into his face. He was exhausted, but there was a fire in his eyes, and somewhere deep inside, I knew he was not lying. He handed me the remote, just 2 buttons. Red, destroy, blue, control. "You have 5 minutes, he said, and disappeared, as if he had dissolved into dust. The screens began to malfunction. The cameras showed strange things. Children who had long been gone, corridors that did not exist, mirrors in which there was no reflection. And then the same face appeared on all the screens. Mine. But it was smiling. Unnaturally. Like a mannequin. "Choose, Danil, or I will choose for you." The screen flickered. My face no longer moved on it, but the smile remained as wide, twisted, unnatural, as if a mask of flesh. The remote shook in my hand. The red button. The blue button. My heart was pounding as if it wanted to break out. And then, a voice. Not a human voice. Something clicking, muffled, with an echo, as if a rusty speaker drowned in water was speaking. "You think you have a choice? It's already happened. It's already happened. It's already been chosen." The world around me shook. The room with the monitors disappeared. I stood in the school corridor. Empty. Dead. All the windows were boarded up. The lights went out lamp after lamp. The floor was covered in blood. The walls were scratched, as if someone was trying to get out from the inside. I heard footsteps. No, not footsteps. The scratching of claws on the floor. Something was crawling. Fast. "It's hard." I ran. The door to the director's office was open. I ran in there. It was empty. Only one thing was standing on the table. A coffin. Small. A child's. And a sign. "Danil. Rest in peace." I didn't have time to scream. It tumbled into the room. A creature that seemed to be turned inside out, with a face similar to mine, but with empty eye sockets. It silently opened its mouth and someone's whisper burst out. Thousands of voices all at once. Men's, women's, children's. "You were a good experiment, Danil. It's a shame you started thinking." I stepped back, but there was a wall behind me. Nowhere to go. And then I realized, the red button destroys the system. The blue one gives power, but I had already chosen the third path. Consciousness. I woke up. And that's the worst part, because now I see them all. Always, even when I'm not looking. I woke up in my bed. Reality looked ordinary. A room, a window, morning light, a phone charging, Monday on the calendar, school. Maybe it was a dream? I went to the mirror. I looked at myself. My face was pale, but alive. My eyes were a little dull, but mine. I went to school. Everything was as usual in the classroom. Students, the teacher, even Artemyev, who was supposed to call the police, was calmly teaching the lesson. "Danil," the teacher turned to me. "I'm glad to see you back in reality." I tensed up. "Excuse me?" He smiled. "Just kidding," he said and turned to the board. But there were no equations on the board, just one word written in red chalk. "Look." I froze. No one else seemed to notice. All week I tried to act normal, but the oddities multiplied. People were talking in unison. Birds outside the window hung in the air, as if suspended. The phone showed the same day over and over again, Monday. And the most important thing, every time I went to the mirror, my reflection did not move. On Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I smashed the mirror with my fist, and behind the glass, on the other side, there I was, alive, breathing, looking straight at me. But his eyes were empty. He smiled and whispered, "Thank you for choosing for me. Now it's your turn to be on the other side." And the next moment he stepped forward, through the broken glass, and I disappeared. Now you read this and think, this is just a story. But look in the mirror. Tell me honestly, are you sure that your reflection is you?